Hello, sir. Joy Guru. To briefly introduce sir, he's currently the global head of talent transformation at Wipro, digital operations and platforms. He has over 23 years of experience in various leadership roles in several leading IT and ITES organizations. And sir is going to speak on the topic, the primary needs of survival and growth. Sir, I hand over the stage to you and you can begin now. So I'm going to hereby request you to stick to the timelines as we have a bit of a time constraint because of the varying time zones. And having said that, I hand over the stage to you.
My beloved dignitaries who are part of this global web conference, the Becoming Web Conference, my beloved speakers, panelists, dignitaries, admirers of life, admirers of existence, ladies and gentlemen, this is a momentous occasion for all of us. Becoming Global Web Conference, the first of its kind, which is being organized in this scale and size. This is a global conference. Luminaries and experts from all over the world and delegates from across the globe are participating in this two-day conference. As our respected Sri Shivanand Prasad ji very beautifully articulated the relevance and context of this event. And he talked about how we should look at this occasion and use this occasion as a celebration of life, celebration of the glory of life and existence. Becoming Global Web Conference could not have happened at a more pertinent and relevant moment. As Sri Shivanand Prasad ji talked about the context, the pandemic that we are situation that we are going through, the human race, it's really struggling. There is a big question mark at the existence of humankind today. More than 500,000 people across the globe have lost their lives to this pandemic. Thousands of people are dying every day. Thousands of them are getting infected. Millions of people have been locked down to their homes for months together. In this moment of crisis, when darkness is looming large over the skies, where people, the humankind is crying for survival, this Becoming Global Web Conference with a very relevant theme, which is survival and growth, comes as a panacea of hope. It comes as a ray of hope in the midst of these concerning moments that all of us are experiencing. As the first speaker of this event, the topic that I'm going to talk about and engage in a dialogue with all of you is the primary needs for survival and growth. My dear friends, my dear luminaries and delegates, dignitaries from across the globe, what we mean by survival and growth. Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra calls it being and becoming. Survival is our very existence, our life, our spirit, our soul, that he describes as the being. And becoming is the process of evolution. It's our progression, it's our elevation, it's our augmentation of our life, a progressive go of life. That's what being and becoming is all about. It's about existence and expansion. Every being wants to exist. Every creature, every entity, every creation in this world, even a microorganism, even a plant, even an animal, even an ant also wants to exist. No creature wants to die. Researchers have proved that even people who are about to commit suicide, at the very last moment where they're about to commit suicide, the desire to come back to life becomes intense in them. Research has proved this, that every being is the eternal hankering to exist, to live, to survive. It's persistent in every creation, in every being. Every being wants to exist because our being is our existence. And what is becoming? Becoming is the expansion of the being. That's the fundamental primal yearning of the being, and it emerges from the being. Mere existence is not enough. Just living a life is not enough. Somebody who is in hospital, on the bed, lying in coma, also has a life, but that life is meaningless. Nobody wants to live such a life. The being wants to expand. The being wants to grow. The being wants to progress. The being wants to evolve. That's what becoming is all about. That's the fundamental, primary desire of every being. And the moment we talk about becoming, it presupposes our existence because becoming emerges from the being. If I have expanded, if I have grown, if I have evolved, if I have progressed, that definitely presupposes with a clarion call that I exist, I have my life, I have my spirit. Becoming presupposes our existence. So if becoming means expansion, it does not necessarily mean if I have got two hands and if I become, this does not necessarily mean I'll have four hands. If I've got one head, it doesn't mean that I'll have a dozen of them. What it means that I will be able to perform the duties and tasks of 10 hands. That's what expansion is all about. I will expand my intellect. I expand my knowledge. I expand my wisdom. I will not have four eyes, but I will expand my ability to look at things that I have not been able to see before. I would have the ability to see the unseen. I'll be able to visualize the invisible. If I have 2 ears, I will have the ability, I will not have 4 ears, but I will have the ability to listen to the unheard, listen to my inner voice, listen to the cry, listen to the voice that I was not able to listen to. That's what expansion is all about. That's what growth is all about. That's what progress is all about. That's what elevation is all about. But the primary thing is existence. There is no becoming without being. Without existence, there is no philosophy. There is no action. There is no good or bad. There is nothing without existence. If there is no existence, there is nothing. Everything else is meaningless. My spiritual guide, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, very beautifully and profoundly says the source of all isms is existentialism. No existence, no ism. The world, which has been divided today by multiple isms, by socialism and communism, by monarchy, by democracy, the world has been divided by multiple religions and faiths. Hinduism and Christianity, Islam, Sikhism and Jainism. In the midst of all these diversities and opposing ideas, Sri Thakur says the source of all the isms that we talk about is existentialism. That is the pivot of all the isms. All that encompasses all the isms, all ideologies, all philosophies, all ideas, all principles. But no existence, no ism, no ideology, no philosophy, no doctrine, no methodology, no principles. The source of all isms is existentialism. My dear friends, honorable dignitaries, delegates, when the source of all the isms is existentialism, when the source of everything is our existence as a being, what are we seeing in this world today? This slide, as you look at it, portrays a very grim picture, very unfortunate picture, an unfortunate reality of our present society. It talks about deaths, it talks about killing, it talks about suicide, it talks about torture, it talks about humiliation. Isn't there a big question mark on the survival of the human race? And such untoward, indecent, unceremonious activities are committed by so-called educated people. People who have got all the education, people who have the so-called wisdom in life are committing crimes. The threat of death is looming large inside families, in our societies, in our provinces, in our countries. It portrays a very grim picture, very sad picture. In the midst of this sadness, in the midst of this pessimism, in the midst of this clarion looming, this looming threat of death, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra says, death is a curable disease. When the humankind is panicking about death, when there is a sort of question mark on the survival of the human race itself, Sri Sri Thakur comes and talks about life, talks about existence, talks about the glory of life, talks about the nourishment of existence. As respected Shivanand Prasadji said, Dharma upholds and nurtures and nourishes existence. Those activities, those actions, those thoughts, those beliefs uphold existence, nurtures existence, are religious practices. And everything else is irreligious, contrary to religion. Sri Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra says, do never die, nor cause death, but resist death to death. He talks about eliminating death. He talks about an eternal existence. He talks about resistance to evil. Today, in the present context, the situation, the circumstances that we are all passing through, the need of the hour is resistance to evil. Evil is that destroys existence and becoming. Evil is the destroyer. It destroys life. It destroys existence, human existence. It stalls becoming an expansion. And how do you fight against that evil? To be able to fight against that evil, we need to understand the cause of evil. What really causes evil? What really brings destruction of our lives? what destroys our life, what brings havoc in our existence. The cause of evil is our eccentric, deregulated, fragmented life. Our life which has become eccentric, which has become directionless, which has become irregulated, indisciplined, fragmented. That's the cause of evil. If you talk about the COVID-19, if you talk about the pandemic situation, all of us know the root cause of this evil. The root cause of this destruction is our eccentric, irregulated lifestyle. And it's also our slavery to passions and complexes. Complexes like lust, anger, ego, greed, infatuation, etc., jealousy, etc. Our slavery to these passions and complexes are the cause of our, is the cause of our evil, is the cause of the destruction. If you reflect on this, if you reflect on each of these passions and complexes, you would agree with me that each one of them can potentially be a destroyer, can be a killer. When you look at the conflict that exists in the human society, the conflict that happens in our families, the conflict that happens in our societies, in our countries, in the globe, is because of ego, anger, greed, infatuation, jealousy, and lust. And because of this, there are dark clouds hovering over our life. The dark clouds are the clouds of anxiety, frustration, stress, confusion, hopelessness, helplessness, discontentment, unhappiness, diffidence, fear, weakness, depression. The humankind has been overwhelmed by these dark clouds. The humankind is struggling for survival and growth. And these dark clouds bring the threat to survival and growth. And these states of mind, the state of anger, frustration, distress, stress, etc., lead to suicide, divorce, adultery, alcoholism, drug addiction, crime, disease, death. What a threat to our survival and growth. The famous Nobel laureate Alexis Carrel says, "The man of science does not know the science of man." Today, the science has taken us to the pinnacle of success. It has taken us to the zenith of technological advancement, material advancement. The man has reached the moon. The man understands what is the quality and the characteristics of the soil in the moon. Man does not know the conditions and the state in which his neighbor is living next door. Unfortunately, science has taught us, science has explained to us how life evolved, how life came into existence. Science tells us how more than 13.8 billion years ago the universe came into existence. It talks about how 4.5 billion years ago the earth came into existence. It talks about how evolution happened, how from a unicellular creation evolution started, and how we have the most precious, most intelligent human beings that exist and how they evolved into this earth. Science talks about the how of life, how it came into existence, how it came into being. Science doesn't talk about the why, the purpose, the meaning. The man of science does not know the science of man. The man has become a stranger in the world that he himself has created. In the midst of this hopelessness, in the midst of this challenges, Sri Thakur says every human being is a living universe. Every human being has the potential and the ability. It has infinite powers. If universe is endowed with infinite power, so does every human being. But why is this looming threat of death? Why is there a question mark on the survival of the human race? Why is the evil which is having an upper hand on the humankind? And why and how the human being, the humankind can move away from the clutches of evil, from the clutches of passions and complexes? How can the human beings move away from irregulated, indisciplined, eccentric life? The solution, my dear friends, dignitaries, delegates, is to have a center, a love center in our life, a living ideal, a guru, a personality in whom all the isms, all the ideologies, all the principles have been embodied, a living ideal in whom the principles of being and becoming have been materialized. We need such a person, such a living ideal, a guru who can show us the path. When we talk about poetry, we remember the great Rabindranath Tagore. When we talk about kindness, we imagine a kind person. When we talk about mercy, we understand mercy by imagining a merciful personality. When we talk about love, we understand love when we imagine our parents, our mother, because in our mother, love and compassion has been embodied. In a personality, kindness and compassion have been embodied, materialized. So when it comes to being and becoming, survival and growth, we need that person. We need that personality in whom being and becoming have been embodied, have been materialized. Without that, we cannot understand. The way we cannot understand kindness without visualizing a kind person, the way we cannot understand the depths of poetry without imagining, without being in the company of a great poet, we cannot understand the true meaning and principles, and we cannot really practice and implement the true meaning and principles of being and becoming without that person at the center of our life who has embodied the philosophy of life and growth, existence and expansion, being and becoming. Such a person needs to be at the center of our life. Then we can have a harmonious, beautiful circle. If you don't have such a person, then life will become a zigzag line, as you can see here. If our life is not concentric around a living ideal, it would become eccentric. And we need to be concentric around the living ideal because he is the love center. He is the path to being and becoming. He is the way to survival and growth. And if he is at the center, then our individual life, our conjugal life, our family life, our professional life, our social life, everything will be in complete harmony and balance. So we will destroy the force of imbalance, we'll destroy evil, and we'll find the meaning of life. But without that one loving center, the living ideal, everything that we accumulate is going to be meaningless. It's going to be meaningless because everything that we accumulate, the sum total of that is going to be zero. But if you have that one at the center of our life, everything else that we accumulate, our wisdom, our knowledge, our wealth, everything else will find meaning. Sri Thakur says, away from the source, deprived of resources. So if you're not connected with the source, resources will move away, will be deprived of resources. So this is the mantra of survival and growth. But is it enough to become to understand the true meaning of being and becoming? Is it enough to become yourself? Is it enough to become competent, capable, wise, and knowledgeable? Sri Thakur says no. While the business world, contemporary businessmen, management experts believe that it is a world where survival of the fittest is the truth, Sri Thakur says it is a myth. Sri Thakur Nukul Chandra says, make the unfit fit, then only will survive. Make the incapable capable, then only will survive. Make the incompetent competent, then only will survive. But if you don't do that, whether you would survive or not, there is a big question mark on that. And emphasizing that once again, Sri Thakur says, it's our environment which is the source of our existence. Without environment, there is no existence. So we need to become serviceable. We need to serve our environment. We need to move in the path of being and becoming, carrying our environment with us, carrying our families, our neighbors, others in our society. And the COVID-19 pandemic has proved it. If you lock down yourself at home, if you follow the principles of hygiene, if you follow the principles of good health, it's not enough. If your neighbor has the infection, if the delivery boy who comes and delivers vegetables and food at your doorstep, if he is not following the practices of hygiene, if he is not following the principles of health, there is no guarantee that you following the principles of health will keep you safe and healthy. So survival and growth needs to be accompanied by service to the environment. Without that, there is going to be no survival. With this note, I would like to conclude once again with my prayers at the lotus feet of my living ideal, who has been the hope and aspiration for millions of people, who has embodied life and growth, whose relationship with life has been intense, and who has spread the message of being and becoming. With that, with my prayer for the entire mankind, for the well-being and happiness, for the bliss of the mankind, I would like to conclude here the opening speech of this Becoming Global Wave Conference. Thank you very much. Bande Purushottam.
Thank you so much, sir. So we are going to quickly take one question for your Q&A, and it is by Felix Elkman from Germany. He has asked, what is an accurate existential human approach in the philosophical inquiries about the nature of existence during this tough time? You want me to repeat it?
Yeah, I think if you can repeat.
Okay.
This is a long question, so I didn't think I captured everything.
Yes. What is an accurate existential human approach in the philosophical inquiries about the nature of existence during this tough time?
The philosophical approach would be to unearth the cause, the root cause of our situation today. What we are experiencing, why we are experiencing. And philosophy, as the Sanskrit word says, is darshan, as we say in Sanskrit, which means the ability to see. It's the vision. So it's the ability to unearth the cause of our situation, the cause of the circumstances, and address that cause because the existential approach is a practical approach, is a pragmatic approach, and philosophy is not about rituals and customs, it's about pragmatism. It's about practical approach. It's about understanding the principles of life, existence, and growth, and following those principles, practicing them in our day-to-day life, and encouraging everybody else to practice that is going to be the existential approach that we can think of. I hope I could
Thank you
answer
so
your
much, sir.
question.
I hope, Mr. Felix, you have received your answer. So our chat boxes are bombarded with questions, but we won't be able to take in more since there is a time constraint. So I would like to thank you so much for joining us today and for enlightening us on this topic. And on
Thank you
that
very
note,
much. Thank you for the opportunity.